showing up here in studio. Always a pleasure to have a doctor in the house. There is a doctor in the house. Dr. Noelle Gabriel, running for school board, Super Ward 6 in Norfolk. And she's become one of my favorite candidates because she's authentic and she really knows the issues. She served on the board when it was an unelected position, and she's got a passion for the schools, and she's an outsider because she's a pediatrician, and I love her views on it. And these are the kind of people you need to get elected. I'm telling you, I don't care if it's school board, city council, supervisor. You need to get people like Dr. Noelle Gabriel elected because they're in it for the right reasons. They're in it for Noelle Gabriel, in my judgment, is in this race for one reason, and that's to help improve the disastrous school situation going on in Norfolk right now. Other people talk. I think she's got some real ideas. But anyway, it's good to have you back.
Thank you so much for having me back. A pleasure to be here.
Yes, I'm a fan.
Thank you.
I'm a fan. I mean, this is your third time in, and I'm a fan. I think I really love your campaign. I love the way you're running it. I love what you're doing with it. I find you to be inspiring. And, I live in Chesapeake where we have, except for a couple of examples, a really great school system. And it really does trace back to the school board members that we have. By the way, some of them up for re-election on May 3rd, like your own race. And one of my favorite school board members in Chesapeake is Victoria Prophet. And she's a good friend of ours. And she goes from school to school. She knows every principal, every assistant principal, all the problems. Parents call her up. I mean, Victoria Prophet epitomizes what the governors to be envision a school board to be. I mean, really involved at the local level with the parents and running the school system. Yes. And I remember one thing she said. Ann and I had lunch with her the other day, and she said something that was riveting. She used to teach math in the public school system in Chesapeake, and then she got elected to school board, and she went to work for TCC. And I'm like, well, why'd you leave? And she says, well, I can't be my own boss. Oh. And I'm like, well, what do you mean your boss is, you report to the department head, reports to the principal? She says, no, I'm a school board member. I'm ultimately in charge of the schools, along with my other board members. I can't teach in school system. Essentially, I'll be my own boss. I can't do that. Not fair to the parents. Conflict of interest. And I thought that was pretty amazing. Now, tell us about your campaign. It's on May 3rd, Super Ward 6. We've chronicled many of the problems of the school systems, Dr. Noelle Gabriel in Norfolk. And look, you're running against Carter Smith. Seems like a nice guy, insider. All the developers like him because, developers want school board members who can tell them where they're going to build the next project, so then they can go to their crony capitalist friends and get the sweetheart deals. That's the way Norfolk works. Everybody knows it. Somebody's got to break up the cabal. But I was doing a little research on Carter Smith. He's never attended a single school board meeting, never served on a school board committee. So if you've never attended a meeting and never served on a committee, and now you're also, all of a sudden you're running for a school board in Norfolk, which is a very troubled environment, what are your credentials?
Absolutely. And I think that's a very good point that you make. But just to go back to the wonderful compliment that you gave for Chesapeake Public Schools, two of their school board members I've worked very closely with, Tom Mercer and Jeff Bunn, on two regional committees, and both of them are endorsing me. They know that I have worked very closely with them to build a good relationship with them and model some good practices in Norfolk off of what they've done. And they have fully stated on Facebook and other areas that Norfolk needs Noelle. And so I work very good with other school board members, especially the ones in Chesapeake, and I do have a love for them. But absolutely, how can you really understand governance if you've never participated in the process? And that's the big difference between he and I. And while I have been working to fix the problems in Norfolk Public Schools because I genuinely care about the teachers and the students and the image and the perception, I really haven't seen my opponent address and bring forth some good solutions to address these problems.
Well, one of the things is when you look at school board races, if you're in a system where you got good school board members and schools are running very well, and sometimes you get candidates that come in and it's really, they have no basic interest in the school system, but it's a political stepping stone. Mm-hmm. They've been involved in the party or they've been involved in the community. They ultimately want to run for city council or state house or something. And so it's a stepping stone. And so They run for the school board. They put together a campaign. And in a lot of circumstances, there isn't anything the matter with that. Here's the problem in Norfolk. You have a disastrous situation going on. You need people that are going to run for these school board seats that are elected, that are going there for one reason. That's to find bold and innovative and passionate ways to fix the mess you have. 62% of the schools unaccredited, 65% of students on subsidized meals. I mean, you've got a disaster in there.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a disaster. And when I was a member of my civic league and applications came through to determine who wanted to volunteer to be on the board, I put my name in the hat. And I didn't even have children in the school division yet. My children are very young, but I wanted to be a part of the solution. I didn't have any political backing. I wasn't asked by anybody. In fact, it was a community volunteer that nominated me to be on the school board. And I have taken the challenges head on. I have no problems in facing the crisis that we do have in Norfolk Public Schools. Just like in the emergency room, I will take whatever patient we have, try to identify the problem, diagnose the problem, and fix them, make them healthy. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do here in Norfolk Public Schools. We do not shy away from our challenges, but we need to address them in a very succinct manner so that we can fix processes in place and go forth and develop true areas of correction so that we can have lasting impacts and lasting success.
Okay, so you have to have an immediate impact, obviously. So you got to get, that number was 70, now it's down to 62. Mm-hmm. So you guys are moving in the right direction. Mm-hmm. That's a good thing. But how do you attract better teachers without spending more money? Because I know that's one of the issues. And one of the candidates running for mayor has made this a centerpiece of his campaign. Sheriff Bob McKay, we had on my show the other day. And he's adamant. He's like, look, you can't have good schools without better teachers because we're in a tough environment. So you need the very best teachers to help turn the situation around. You can't do that when they're getting paid $7,000 less than Chesapeake or Virginia Beach or other Newport News, other surrounding areas. Mm-hmm. And on the surface, that makes sense to me. What he's saying is when you have something bad, you need to really, really find people to come in and power through the situation. Mm-hmm. But then you got to go to the council to get more money, right? So it isn't as easy as that.
That's right. Well, our starting salary is very competitive with our neighboring regions. So number one. Number two, in order to attract and retain our teachers, we have to give them a good work environment. So that means improving climate and morale. And that's something that we've done. We're offering a 3% pay raise in this budget cycle. We're taking things off of their work plate. We're making their working conditions easier. And we're trying to make our classrooms safer. You know, the secret is that Norfolk is the best place to train teachers. And then what happens is for pay, for work environment, they go to other divisions. But Norfolk provides excellent professional development. And they say that if you can teach in Norfolk, you can teach anywhere. We have to do a better job of retaining our very good and qualified teachers. And we're doing that right now. The board clearly understands that issue. And we're going to do everything we can to make sure we keep our teachers.
We touched on this, Noelle Gabriel, a little bit the last time you were in. Let's get to the fact that you have overcrowded classrooms right now, right? Because you have higher than the average. Again, same issue. Money's involved. You don't have enough money to fix that. I mean, when you've got more kids per class than is the average in the area, obviously that's not a good thing.
Well, we have a unique situation in that many of our schools are title funded, and so they get a lot of subsidies from the federal government. So many of our schools have a very low teacher to student pupil ratio because we have extra staff members coming in through our federal grant. However, the schools that do not qualify for Title I fundings, we do have to have the maximum number that the state requires as far as teacher pupil ratio. But it does all come down to budgeting. Since 2009, the state has cut our state funding, our city funding for the school system, almost $30 million. Even Dr. Boone said when she came here, I have 6,000 more students and a whole lot less money to deal with the situation and the issues that we're dealing with. And what the city has tried to do in response to that is fund our budget as much as they can. That's why we have included math and reading specialists for every one of our elementary and middle schools. And we're trying to make a little difference here and there. But really, funding is so important for Norfolk Public Schools.
Dr. Gabriel, so some are elected, some are still holdovers from the old way it was ran. Who's the chairman? How does this work?
Well, currently, the chairman right now is Mr. Rodney Jordan, and I am the vice chair. And we are both up for election this May 3rd. In 2018, 5 of our board members, so the remaining part of the board, will have to be up for election. So there's
How many are there in total?
7.
So 2 get elected now,
2 are elected now.
and then 2018 the other 5.
That's right.
Wow.
And so that's going to be a lot of turnover on the board because we're doing it by a ward system, and 4 of the 5 members who would have to be elected in 2018 all live in the same ward. There's going to be an incredible amount of turnover on the board. And when you talk about
Do you
stability,
have to live in the ward that you're...
Yes.
Oh, so
Yes.
they're out or they have
Yeah.
to move.
You're out. You have to change your address.
Yeah, that's pretty hard.
Now's the time to do it.
Wow. So so of the 5, 4 of them live in the same ward.
Mm-hmm.
So there's going to be a lot of turnover. Mm-hmm. Well, that's going to be exciting.
Mm-hmm. Right. And it's really important that you have stability and continuity on your board because school board members govern. We determine the mission and the vision for Norfolk Public Schools, and it's really the superintendent that is in charge of the day-to-day operations. And if you start to get board members who really go down into the weeds and try to manage the school division, you can't hold your superintendent accountable. And that's where we got into the situation that we did with our past superintendent. And going forward, we've been told by the Virginia School Board Association, you really have to govern. And there's going to be a lot of professional development that the new school board members are going to have. And that's why I am so committed to staying on the board so that I can provide that continuity and stability. I'm really happy to say that I've been endorsed by all of the teacher associations in Norfolk, the Norfolk Federation of Teachers, the Virginia Education Association, and the American Federation of Teachers. They trust Dr. Gabriel.
Well, there's no doubt with that list of endorsements, that's pretty impressive. Now, one of your detractors says, well, that's all nice and good, and that's all shiny new apple, and, we're all for that. But Norfolk school system is a disaster. You've been there. You're part of the problem. How do you respond to that?
I have been part of the solutions. I have been there to identify the problems. And as part of the solutions, we have identified that we have had misalignment with our curriculum, which we are now on track. We have identified climate and morale issues, which I voted to strengthen our policy to expel any student who has an unprovoked assault on a teacher. We had issues with state funding, and I have worked on building relationships with our legislators in Richmond and our city to help restore that funding. We also have issues with parental involvement, and we have tried to go out into the community and bring forth the positive message that Norfolk Public Schools has and really bring in our parents and meet them where they are to help them participate in the process that is really important for public education all across our city.
Your election is May 3rd, so it sounds like what you're saying is, yes, you've been on the school board, but you've been there long enough to start to affect some of the solutions.
Absolutely.
But it sounds like what you're saying is if you get a full term, you'll be able to hard charge through that.
Absolutely.
I just have to ask this. You're going to have 5 unelected people and 2 elected people. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't it stand the reason, I know you're going to be vice chair, but wouldn't it stand the reason that the elected people are going to have a little more clout because, you're put there by the people and the others were put there by the cronies on city council? I'm just asking the question.
Personally, I've learned a lot from the campaign experience, and I know that it's going to make me a better board member. I myself have taken it upon myself to visit the schools at least every week, and I've been invited to attend Civic League meetings, but I'm going to have a clear presence in our Civic League meetings now and going forward. And I think that there will be a little bit of a difference between the elected versus the appointed, but I can definitely say that we all share a common vision, and that is to make Norfolk Public Schools a great place to work and a great place to learn.
What's your website?
www.noellegabriel.com. And I would invite everyone to go to my website and my Facebook page and support me on May 3rd.
May 3rd, Super Ward 6, Dr. Noelle Gabriel trying to make change in the Norfolk Public Schools system. You're delightful to have on, and I wish you the best of luck in your campaign.